Ethan crouched behind the twisted remains of what had once been a tall building. The ground shook beneath him as distant explosions rattled through the ruined city. Smoke curled into the sky, painting it a dull gray, and the stench of burnt metal and alien fuel filled the air. He had been sent here on a reconnaissance mission, but this was no ordinary mission. It was a city reduced to rubble, and somewhere in this chaos a life was calling out for help. Through the dust he spotted a tiny figure struggling beneath a collapsed metal beam. It was small, its skin a soft pale green and its eyes wide with fear. The alien child was trapped, unable to free itself, and crying out in a voice that was almost musical, but filled with pain. Ethan's heart clenched. "Sir, you shouldn't—" His squadmate's voice came over the communicator, shaky. "That area is crawling with patrols. It's not safe." "I don't care," Ethan interrupted. "I'm going in." He moved carefully, every step measured to avoid loose debris, but his eyes never left the child. A low rumble shook the building further, sending more rubble cascading down. Dust stung his eyes and he felt a sharp cut on his arm, but he ignored it. When he reached the child, he could see how small and fragile it was. Its limbs were thin, almost too delicate to support its weight. Ethan gently lifted the metal beam with as much strength as he could muster. The child cried out, not in fear now but in relief, and clung to him instinctively. "Don't worry, I've got you," he whispered, brushing dust from its hair-like tendrils. The alien child looked at him, its large, round eyes filled with gratitude and confusion. The sound of approaching patrols snapped him back to reality. "Move," he ordered, keeping the child close to his chest. They ran through the rubble-strewn streets, dodging debris and craters from the recent battles. Ethan's squad covered him from a distance, providing suppressing fire whenever alien patrols got too close. Despite the chaos, the child remained calm in his arms, as if it knew he was there to protect it. Finally, they reached a temporary safe zone, a small, fortified area surrounded by remnants of collapsed walls. Ethan set the child down gently and knelt beside it. "You're safe now," he said, checking for injuries. There were bruises and cuts, but thankfully no broken bones. He tore a piece of his shirt to bandage its small arm. The child made a soft sound, almost like laughter, and rested its head against his chest. Ethan felt an unfamiliar warmth in his chest, a protective instinct that was stronger than fear, stronger than exhaustion. "Sir, are you sure this is a good idea?" one of his squadmates asked. They were all tense, scanning the perimeter for threats. "This child, it could bring more danger than we realize." Ethan shook his head. "We don't leave anyone behind. Not like this." For the next few hours, they stayed in the safe zone, waiting for the fighting to die down. Ethan kept his focus on the child, who gradually relaxed and even tried to mimic his movements, reaching out to touch his helmet and armor. Despite the alien appearance, the child's curiosity and innocence reminded him of a human child in many ways. Suddenly, a shadow fell over the group. Ethan looked up and froze. Above them, a massive alien ship hovered silently, its surface shimmering in colors that seemed almost alive. The hum of its engines vibrated through the ground, a deep, powerful sound that made even the soldiers uneasy. From the ship, a figure descended, a tall, elegant alien with glowing eyes and a regal presence. Every step it took seemed to command the ground itself. Ethan instinctively stood in front of the child, placing himself between it and the newcomer. The alien looked at them silently, its gaze sharp and piercing. Then it turned to the child, who ran to it instinctively. The child's small body pressed against the alien's legs, and the adult bent down to meet its gaze. This is my child," the alien said in a voice that resonated with authority. Ethan's stomach tightened. He had no idea who this being was, but the power in its tone made him realize that this was someone of immense importance. The alien's eyes then moved to Ethan. "And you saved my child." Ethan nodded slowly, keeping his hands visible. "Yes, ma'am. I couldn't leave it behind. It was trapped and hurt. I had to help." The alien's gaze softened slightly, though its posture remained proud and commanding. Most would not dare to intervene. Most would have left the child to the chaos. Ethan shrugged. "I didn't think about that. I just did what felt right." The alien studied him for a long moment. Then it spoke again, more softly this time, almost a whisper carried on the wind. "You have courage and compassion, qualities rare among your kind." The child looked up at Ethan and then back at the alien. It made a small chirping sound, like it was trying to communicate something. The alien bent down and picked up the child gently, holding it close. Ethan noticed how the child relaxed completely in its arms, trusting this figure completely. "You are human?" the alien asked, tilting its head. "Yes," Ethan replied. The alien straightened and looked at him with intensity. "You saved a life of great importance. This act cannot go unacknowledged. You will come with me." Ethan blinked in surprise. I don't understand. Why me?" "Because you have proven yourself in a way no one else could. You have shown courage, honor, and empathy, qualities that are not easily found," the alien said. Its eyes glowed faintly, and Ethan felt as if it was seeing everything inside him, every thought, every intention. The squad looked at him nervously. "Sir, we don't know what this means. Should we interfere?" Ethan shook his head. "No. Let's see where this goes." The alien child chirped again, nudging Ethan's hand. Ethan looked down at it, feeling a connection he could not explain. This small life had unknowingly changed everything about his mission. "You will come with me," the alien repeated. "You have entered a world of power, danger, and responsibility. Your actions will have consequences beyond your understanding." Ethan nodded, trying to appear calm even as his heart raced. He had come to this planet to scout, not to become entangled in alien politics. But looking at the child and the alien, he realized that this was bigger than him. This was about survival, trust, and a chance to prove humanity in a galaxy that rarely believed in it. The alien gestured, and a small portal-like device activated beneath them. Ethan felt a strange pull, a gentle tug that lifted him slightly off the ground. The child squealed with excitement, and Ethan caught it instinctively, holding it close as the portal enveloped them. The squad watched in stunned silence as their comrade disappeared, leaving only the sound of the humming portal and the faint echo of the alien's voice. Inside the portal, Ethan felt a wave of energy wash over him. The world outside dissolved into streaks of light and color, and when he opened his eyes, he found himself standing in a place unlike any he had seen before. Towering structures of crystal and metal surrounded him, glowing with colors that shifted and pulsed like living beings. The air was warm and smelled faintly of flowers, though no plants were visible. The alien child wriggled in his arms, pointing at the structures with fascination. Ethan set it down gently. "Easy, little one. We'll figure this out together." Then the alien queen appeared beside him. She radiated authority, beauty, and power all at once. Ethan felt a mixture of awe and caution. She looked at him not with anger, but with an intensity that made him feel measured and weighed. "You saved my child," she said. "That act of courage binds you to me. You are not merely a human now. You are part of something far greater than your world, and I demand that you remain under my protection until your place is decided." Ethan swallowed hard. He had come to this planet to observe, maybe report, maybe survive. But now he realized that he was in the center of a story much larger than himself. A story of courage, trust, and the unexpected ways humanity could leave its mark on the stars. The alien child looked up at him and smiled. A pure, innocent expression that seemed to say, "We're safe, thanks to you." Ethan took a deep breath and nodded slowly. "Okay," he said. "I'll do my best." And so, the first step of his journey in this alien world began. Not as a scout, not as a soldier, but as a protector of a child and a participant in events that could change the course of an entire civilization. Ethan followed the alien queen, Zyra, through the glowing corridors of her palace. The walls shimmered with a color that seemed to shift when he looked at it, and strange symbols moved subtly across the surfaces, like they were alive. He held the alien child carefully in his arms. The child, though small and delicate, seemed full of curiosity, reaching out to touch the walls, giggling at the soft hum of the building. "This way," Zyra said, her voice calm but commanding. Her eyes glowed faintly, a sign of her authority. Ethan noticed how every step she took seemed to command respect from invisible forces. He realized that in this place she was not just a leader, she was power itself. They entered a large chamber, filled with alien beings of various shapes and sizes. Some had multiple arms, some had elongated necks, and all had eyes that glimmered with intelligence. The moment Zyra entered, a silence fell over the room. Every being, regardless of rank or origin, turned to look at her and then at Ethan. "This is my court," Zyra explained softly. "They will judge your actions, though their opinions matter less than you might think." Ethan nodded cautiously. "I didn't come here to upset anyone. I just wanted to help." Zyra's gaze softened slightly. That is precisely why you are here. Not as an intruder, not as a spy, but as someone who has shown a quality rare even among my people, courage with compassion. The child squirmed in Ethan's arms, making soft chirping sounds. Ethan adjusted his hold and smiled gently. It's okay. You're safe. At that moment, one of Zira's advisors stepped forward. He was tall and thin, with iridescent skin and multiple glowing eyes. Your Majesty, he said, bowing low. This human saved the child, but he is still an outsider. Our traditions, they do not allow interference from other species. Zira nodded. Yes, I know. But sometimes the unexpected brings clarity. This human has demonstrated something that we have long forgotten. Humility, courage, and the willingness to act without fear of personal gain. The advisor hesitated, then bowed again. It is true, Your Majesty. Still, there are factions among us who may see this as a challenge. If the human remains, they could create unrest. Ethan swallowed hard. He had survived dangerous missions before, but this was different. He was standing in a palace on a foreign world, surrounded by beings far more powerful than him, and yet somehow, they respected him because of his actions. Zira stepped closer to him, her glowing eyes meeting his. Do you understand what this means, human? I think so, Ethan said slowly. You want me to stay here under your protection until you decide my place? Yes, she replied. And perhaps in time you will show us more of what your kind can offer. But first you must adapt, learn our ways, respect our traditions, and protect what is precious. Ethan nodded again. I'll do my best. The alien child looked up at him and chirped happily, curling its tiny hands around his finger. Ethan felt a warmth in his chest that surprised him. Protecting this small life had already changed him in ways he could not fully understand. Over the next few days, Ethan was introduced to the palace and its routines. He learned how to move through the corridors without offending anyone, how to address beings with multiple voices, and even how to communicate using subtle gestures that conveyed respect. Zira watched him closely, occasionally offering guidance but mostly letting him find his way. One afternoon, as they walked through a crystal garden that floated above the palace, the child toddled ahead and began touching glowing plants. Ethan followed, keeping a careful eye. You are adjusting well, Zira said, her voice soft. Many humans would be overwhelmed by these surroundings, but you move with awareness. That is commendable. Ethan shrugged modestly. I just try not to make mistakes. Zira's eyes glimmered with amusement. In your world, that may be sufficient. Here, it is only the beginning. You must learn to act with insight, courage, and wisdom, and you must protect this child, for its life holds more importance than you realize. Ethan's brow furrowed. I know the child is important, but why? Who are they? Zira stopped walking and looked at him seriously. This child is my heir. Their survival is the key to our lineage, our strength, and the future of my people. By saving them, you have placed yourself at the center of our world. And now, human, you must earn your place. Ethan felt a mix of pride and fear. He had acted on instinct, driven by compassion, never imagining that saving one small life could have such consequences. Over the following weeks, Ethan faced trials designed to test him. He was asked to navigate challenges that combined strategy, diplomacy, and physical endurance. Some of the tests involved understanding alien technology, while others required him to anticipate political moves within Zira's court. Each time he surprised the advisors with his insight and adaptability. During one trial, a group of alien rebels attempted to infiltrate the palace. Using his tactical training and quick thinking, Ethan led a small team to contain the threat without harming the rebels unnecessarily. His approach impressed the council. They whispered among themselves, recognizing that his human methods, creative, unexpected, and daring, were effective in ways their own methods often were not. Zira observed silently, her eyes reflecting pride and approval. After the incident, she approached Ethan and placed a hand on his shoulder. You are learning quickly. Your courage protects more than just the child. You protect the future of my people. Ethan felt a lump in his throat. He had never imagined being praised by an alien queen, nor being told that his actions could influence the fate of an entire civilization. But looking at the child who giggled and ran to him, he realized that he cared deeply for these beings, not just because of duty, but because he had formed a genuine bond. One evening, As Ethan and the child walked along a balcony overlooking the glowing city, Zyra joined them. The night sky was filled with floating lights, stars, and distant planets visible through the alien atmosphere. "You have done more than save a life," Zyra said quietly. "You have reminded us of values we have long neglected. Courage, empathy, and the willingness to act when it is hardest. These are the qualities that can change the course of history." Ethan looked at her, humbled. "I'm just a human. I did what I had to do." "Perhaps," Zyra said, "but that is precisely why your actions matter. The universe is full of beings who calculate, who plan, who hesitate. Few act purely from compassion. You have done so, and that is why you are here." The child climbed onto Ethan's shoulders, chirping and pointing at the distant lights. Ethan laughed softly. "Careful, little one. Don't fall." Zyra watched them, her expression unreadable. "Do you see now, human? Your place in this world is not accidental. You have been tested, observed, and found worthy. But your journey is only beginning. Soon challenges will come that will require every skill, every bit of courage you have. And when they do, you must stand firm." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of her words. He had survived battles on Earth, but nothing had prepared him for this world, where the stakes were measured not just in life and death, but in the survival of an entire lineage, a civilization, and the bond between a queen and her child. As they returned to the palace, Ethan noticed that the advisors and guards now looked at him differently. There was respect in their eyes, even awe. His human perspective, his courage, and his compassion had won them over, proving that even in a world so different from his own, humanity could leave a mark. That night, as Ethan lay in the chamber assigned to him, he thought about the journey ahead. The child slept peacefully nearby, and for the first time since arriving on this planet, Ethan felt a sense of purpose beyond duty. He realized that saving one small life had led him to a path where courage, honor, and humanity itself would be tested and perhaps recognized across the stars. And in the quiet of the palace, as the lights shimmered and the city below pulsed with life, Ethan knew one truth clearly. He would protect this child no matter what. For in doing so, he had already become part of something far greater than himself. The palace had never been quieter. For the first time in weeks, Ethan felt a moment of calm as he walked through the glowing corridors, the alien child holding tightly to his hand. The floating gardens above shimmered softly, and the crystal walls reflected a peaceful light. But Ethan knew better than to trust the calm. On a world like this, danger was always near, and soon it arrived. From the sky above the palace, Ethan saw shadows moving. Not the gentle hum of drones or ordinary patrols, but large, coordinated forces descending rapidly. The rival faction he had anticipated, those who had opposed his presence, had launched a full-scale attack. The palace gates shook under the pressure and alarms rang out, echoing through every chamber. "Ethan," Zyra's voice called through the communication system. "The attackers are here. Protect the child at all costs." Ethan felt his heart pound. He had prepared for this moment, trained for it, and observed their strategies, but nothing could remove the weight of responsibility. The child's safety was now his mission, and failure was not an option. He ran toward the child's chamber, flanked by loyal palace guards who looked to him for guidance. His mind raced, recalling every passage, hidden route, and potential trap he had memorized. The child clung to him instinctively, sensing both danger and trust. The first wave of attackers breached the outer walls. Ethan led the guards through hidden corridors, using human tactics that surprised the invaders. He created diversions, set up barriers, and anticipated the enemy's moves. Every action was precise, every decision calculated. A group of armed aliens broke into the chamber only to find Ethan waiting. He did not hesitate. Using his strength, strategy, and quick thinking, he disarmed and incapacitated them without causing serious harm. The child watched wide-eyed, trusting him completely. "You must stay close," Ethan whispered, holding the child tightly. "We're almost safe." They moved through the palace, encountering resistance at every turn. Ethan's knowledge of the building gave them an advantage. He led his team through secret passages, using light and shadows to confuse the attackers. At one point, a corridor collapsed behind them, cutting off pursuers and providing a momentary reprieve. Meanwhile, Zyra coordinated the palace's defense. Her presence was commanding, her power radiating through the defenders, but even she could not be everywhere at once. It was Ethan who became the shield, the strategist, and the protector. Hours seemed to pass in moments. The attackers were relentless, but Ethan's calm human ingenuity turned the tide. He found weaknesses in their formations, exploited blind spots, and used simple but effective tactics to save lives. Guards and staff began to recognize that his human perspective brought new strength to the palace's defense. Finally, the leaders of the rival faction confronted him directly. They were larger, armed with advanced weaponry, and their movements were precise. But Ethan did not falter. He studied them carefully, anticipating their strikes, and used every skill he had learned on Earth and in this alien world. The confrontation was intense. Energy blasts illuminated the chamber, and the sound of clashing metal echoed through the palace. Ethan dodged, blocked, and countered, relying not on brute force alone, but on quick thinking and precise timing. The child watched from a safe distance, protected by loyal guards, and Ethan felt a surge of determination. He could not fail. In the end, Ethan's strategy prevailed. The rival faction's leaders were captured or fled, their plans dismantled. The palace was secure, the child safe, and the court breathed a collective sigh of relief. Zira approached him, her eyes glowing softly with pride. She did not need words to show her approval. The way her presence filled the room, commanding respect and gratitude, spoke louder than any declaration. "You have done more than protect my child," she said, her voice calm but resonant. "You have proven that courage, wisdom, and loyalty can bridge worlds. You have shown qualities that my people have long overlooked, and for that you have earned your place among us." Ethan shook his head, exhausted but proud. "I only did what I had to do. The child, the people, they mattered." Zira smiled faintly. "That is precisely why you are here. You act not out of desire for recognition or reward, but out of the instinct to do what is right. That is a rare and valuable trait, and it is why I now formally claim you as part of my household, my protector, and my trusted ally." Ethan felt a mix of humility and honor. He had never imagined that saving a single life could lead to such recognition, nor that his actions would influence the fate of an entire civilization. Yet here he was, standing beside a queen who commanded respect across the stars, entrusted with the life of her child, and now recognized as more than just a human outsider. The child toddled toward him, chirping happily. Ethan lifted it gently into his arms, feeling the warmth and trust radiating from the small being. For a moment, the chaos of battle, the intrigue of the court, and the weight of responsibility faded. All that mattered was the bond he had formed and the lives he had protected. In the days that followed, the palace began to return to normal. The court respected Ethan not just for his actions during the attack, but for the integrity and courage he displayed in daily life. He taught the guards new strategies, shared his perspective, and continued to bond with the child, whose laughter and curiosity brought light to even the darkest corridors. Zira often observed him silently, noting how he moved, how he treated others, and how he balanced caution with courage. She realized that humanity, this human in particular, was capable of qualities that transcended technology, strength, and experience. Compassion, loyalty, and ingenuity were powerful tools, and Ethan wielded them with grace. One evening, as the sun, or the alien equivalent, glowing softly on the horizon, cast long shadows across the floating gardens, Zira approached him. The child played nearby, exploring glowing plants and floating platforms. Ethan watched over them, protective and attentive. "You have done well," Zira said softly. "Not only have you protected my child, but you have reminded us of values we had begun to forget. Courage, empathy, and loyalty are more powerful than any weapon. You have shown us that, and for that, I am grateful." Ethan nodded, feeling a sense of fulfillment unlike anything he had experienced. "I just did what I thought was right. I couldn't leave the child in danger." "Exactly," Zira said. "And that is why you are more than a protector. You are a symbol of what humanity can offer. A reminder that even in a world far from your own, your qualities matter." The child toddled over and hugged Ethan's leg, looking up at him with trust and affection. Ethan knelt and lifted the small being into his arms, holding it close. He felt a profound sense of purpose, knowing that his actions had created a ripple far beyond what he could see. Zira placed a hand on his shoulder, her touch gentle but commanding. "Ethan, from this day forward you will remain by my side. You will protect, guide, and advise, and in time, you will see that your journey here is only beginning." Challenges will come that will test every skill, every ounce of courage, and every decision you have made. But I have no doubt that you will rise to them." Ethan looked at her, humbled. "I will do my best. I promise." The Queen's gaze softened, and for a brief moment Ethan saw a side of her rarely revealed. A mixture of relief, gratitude, and trust. It was an acknowledgement that went beyond words, a silent bond formed through trials, courage, and shared purpose. As night fell over the glowing city, Ethan stood on a balcony with the child in his arms, gazing at the stars above. He thought of Earth, of the missions he had survived, and of the journey that had brought him here. Saving one small life had changed everything: his mission, his purpose, and his place in the universe. Zyra joined him, placing a hand on his shoulder. "You have done more than save a life," she said quietly. "You have changed a world." Ethan smiled faintly, holding the child close. "I just did what I had to do. But thank you for trusting me." Zyra's eyes glimmered. "Trust is earned, human, and you have earned it. Remember this night and remember what you have achieved. Humanity's courage can be a force greater than any weapon, and you have proven that." For the first time in his life, Ethan felt that he truly belonged, not to one world, not to one mission, but to a purpose that transcended boundaries, species, and expectations. He had saved a life, earned the respect of a queen, and discovered that courage and compassion were forces that could shape the destiny of worlds. And as the stars shimmered above, the palace safe and alive, Ethan realized something profound. He would protect this child, this world, and the values that had brought him here, not because it was required, but because it was right. In the quiet of the night, the child fell asleep in his arms, and Ethan felt a sense of peace. The battles, the intrigue, the challenges, they were not over, but he was ready. Humanity had proven itself through him, and he would continue to show the galaxy what courage, loyalty, and compassion could achieve. For Ethan, the journey had begun with one act of bravery, and it had led him to a place where a human could change the course of an entire civilization. The Queen had demanded him as hers, yes, but in truth he had earned his place. Not through power, not through fear, but through humanity itself. And that was a power no one could ever take away. Ethan had been in the palace for several weeks now, yet each day brought new challenges. The alien world was unlike anything he had ever seen. The corridors shimmered with living colors, the gardens floated above the palace in midair, and the technology around him seemed almost alive. But it wasn't the beauty or strangeness that tested him, it was the people. The court was filled with beings of every shape, size, and origin. Some were friendly, curious about the human among them. Others were cold, suspicious, and openly hostile. Rumors spread quickly that a human had been allowed into the inner circle, that a human had been trusted with the life of the Queen's child. Some envied him, while others feared that his presence might upset the balance of power. Ethan's first test came one morning when Zyra summoned him to a private chamber. The room was vast, its walls covered in symbols that glowed faintly as he entered. Zyra's child sat on a floating platform, giggling and reaching for Ethan as he approached. "You have been doing well," Zyra said, her voice calm but edged with authority. "But now you will face a different challenge, one that cannot be solved by courage alone." Ethan frowned. "What kind of challenge?" Zyra gestured to a holographic display that filled the center of the room. It showed multiple areas of the palace with markers indicating suspicious activity. "There are factions in my court who question your presence. Some are planning to act against us, to remove you and possibly the child. You must identify them, prevent any harm, and maintain peace, all without causing unnecessary conflict." Ethan's mind raced. This was not a physical challenge, but a test of strategy, observation, and diplomacy. "Understood," he said. "I'll do my best." For the next few days, Ethan observed the court closely. He studied the behavior of advisors, guards, and servants. He noticed subtle gestures, whispered conversations, and secretive movements. Slowly, a picture began to form. A small group of powerful advisors were plotting to capture the child and remove the human interloper. The plot was dangerous. If it succeeded, the child could be taken and Ethan would be blamed. But he did not panic. Instead, he formulated a plan. He discreetly alerted trusted guards, created diversions to draw attention away from the child, and used his understanding of human tactics to anticipate the conspirators' moves. The first confrontation came at night. Ethan, guided by the faint glow of the palace symbols, intercepted a group of intruders attempting to enter the child's chamber. Using quick thinking, he blocked their path and called for reinforcements. The intruders hesitated, realizing that their actions were being observed by someone clever and fearless. "You do not understand the consequences of your actions," Ethan said calmly, standing between them and the child. "Leave now or face the outcome." The intruders exchanged nervous glances and, seeing the determination in his eyes, retreated. Ethan followed them discreetly, ensuring they would not return. When he returned to the child, it was asleep, safe and unaware of the danger it had narrowly escaped. Ethan breathed a sigh of relief, realizing that his human perspective, adaptable, creative, and direct, had turned the tide in a palace filled with calculated schemes. The next day, Zira called him to the council chamber. The advisors who had opposed him were present, their expressions cautious. Ethan noticed the subtle shift in their demeanor. They were no longer openly hostile, but wary. He realized that respect had begun to grow. Quiet respect for a human who had proven capable of protecting what mattered most. Zira addressed the council. "The human has acted with insight, courage, and loyalty. He has prevented harm to my child without unnecessary conflict. His actions show qualities we have long overlooked." Murmurs filled the room. Some nodded, impressed despite themselves. Others remained silent, processing the implications. Ethan stood quietly, feeling the weight of their judgment but also a quiet satisfaction. He had faced the test without using violence beyond necessity, relying instead on observation, strategy, and the instinct to protect. Over the following days, Ethan's bond with the child grew stronger. He taught the child simple gestures and sounds, learning to communicate in ways neither human nor alien language could fully capture. The child responded with trust and affection, giggling and reaching for him at every opportunity. Ethan found himself laughing more than he had in months, warmed by the small life that depended on him. One afternoon, as they walked through the floating gardens, Zira joined them. The child toddled ahead, exploring the glowing plants and hovering platforms. Ethan kept a careful eye, guiding the child when necessary. "You have adapted well," Zira said, her voice soft but carrying weight. "Many humans would struggle here, but you move with awareness, courage, and respect. These qualities are rare even among my people." Ethan shrugged. "I just try to do what's right. I didn't come here to impress anyone." Zira's eyes glimmered faintly. "That is exactly why your actions matter. You act without fear of recognition, without hesitation. That is a strength we have overlooked for too long." As they spoke, Ethan noticed movement at the edge of the gardens, shadows that did not belong. A small group of advisors who had once opposed him were watching. Their eyes narrowed, and their posture suggested they were planning something. Ethan's senses sharpened instantly. He realized that his challenges were far from over. That night, Ethan reviewed what he had learned. He mapped the palace in his mind, noting routes, exits, and potential ambush points. He memorized the movements of those who might act against him or the child. He trained with the palace guards, sharing strategies and demonstrating human tactics that surprised even the most seasoned warriors. Through it all, Zira watched quietly, occasionally offering guidance. She recognized that Ethan was not only protecting her child, but also teaching her people something valuable. That courage, insight, and empathy were as important as strength and strategy. A week later, the true test came. A rival faction launched a coordinated attempt to seize the child and discredit Ethan. Guards were ambushed, corridors were blocked, and alarms blared throughout the palace. Ethan sprang into action, using his knowledge of the palace and the adversaries' patterns to anticipate their moves. He guided the child through hidden passages, keeping it safe while directing loyal guards to intercept the intruders. His tactics were simple, direct, and effective. By thinking quickly, observing carefully, and acting decisively, he neutralized the threat without causing unnecessary harm. When the battle ended, the palace was secure. The rival faction was contained and the child remained safe. Ethan looked around at the council and guards. He saw admiration, relief, and respect in their eyes. For the first time, he felt fully accepted in this alien world, not as a stranger, not as an outsider, but as someone who had earned his place through courage, wisdom, and compassion. Zira approached him, her expression unreadable but her eyes glowing faintly. "You have proven yourself, human. You have protected what is most precious not through force alone but through insight and loyalty. You have shown that your kind can contribute greatly to our world." Ethan nodded, feeling the weight of her words. "I'm just glad the child is safe." Zyra smiled faintly. "That is exactly why you are here. You are not just a protector. You are a bridge between our worlds, a symbol of what humanity can achieve. And soon you will face challenges even greater than this. But for now, rest, for the path ahead is long and your journey has only just begun." The child climbed onto Ethan's shoulders, chirping happily. He laughed softly, holding it steady. For a moment, the palace, the danger, and the intrigue faded away. He felt a simple, profound joy in the trust of a small life he had saved. As they walked back through the glowing corridors, Ethan realized something important. He had arrived on this alien world as a stranger, a scout with a mission. But now he had become something more, a protector, a strategist, and a symbol of courage and compassion. The Queen had demanded him as hers, yes, but in truth, he had earned a place not by power, not by rank, but by humanity itself, and for the first time, he began to understand what it meant to belong, to a child, to a queen, and to a world that had tested him in ways no human world ever could.